Hi, everyone. This is Joan again, and I am showing you the mixer brush video from lynda.com. I want to put in a plug for lynda.com, or now it's called LinkedIn Learning. So I've used these videos many times, and in lieu of me showing you the mixer brush, I wanted to give you a little break and let you see a video from their library, LinkedIn Learning Library. If you can get this service, that would be great. It costs about $25 a month, I think, but you can get it for free various ways. One is to have a card, a library card, to the Greater Los Angeles library system. I think it's the county library system. So if you have a card, I think you can get it online also now that there's COVID. And they offer LinkedIn Learning access for free. So you could look into that. Many students have told me that they got it that way. Anyway, it's a really good service because they use professional teachers to do the videos. So they're a little bit better sometimes than just going on YouTube. So this is the mixer brush tool, which I'd like you to use and to try. And we'll do an exercise with it as well. I think it's exercise 5 that we do with the mixer brush. So listen to this, see if you like it, and then look into having a subscription to lynda.com. Let's see how I do it here. There it goes.
In addition to the regular paintbrush, Photoshop has the mixer brush, which will allow us to mix or blend colors together in our images. So I'm going to select the mixer brush, and my mixer brush is located right here in the toolbar, and that's because I'm in the painting workspace. If you're in the essentials workspace, the mixer brush is going to be nested with your paintbrush. And to make sure that we're all starting in the same place, I'm going to right-click on the mixer brush icon and choose to reset the tool. I also want to be painting with white, so I'll tap the X key in order to exchange my foreground and background colors. Now, there are 3 primary controls for the mixer brush. There's the wet, the load, and the mix. So the wet is really the wetness of the canvas, whereas the load is the amount of paint that you have in the brush. And the mix determines how much paint that's on the canvas gets mixed into the brush. So the easiest thing to take a look at first would be the load. So I'm going to set the wet to 0%, and that automatically turns off the mix. So it's really not a mixer brush right now. It's just a paintbrush. And I'm going to decrease the load down to, I don't know, somewhere around 10%. So now when I start painting with white, you can see that I can paint for a while, but then it starts to run out of paint because I only have the load set to 10%. If we increase that to something like 50%, well, then I can paint a lot further along in my document before my brush starts to run out of paint. All right, so that's what the load does. Now let's change the wet value here. I'm going to increase it to maybe 10%. So I'm telling the mixer brush that the paper is just a little bit wet. And for now, I'll turn off the mix. So I'll set it to 0. Now I'm going to use my right bracket keys in order to get a larger brush. And using the brush settings panel, I want to decrease the spacing of my brush down to 1%. Then I'm going to click and hold down the shift key and just start painting. And you can see that because I've increased the wet value, the mixer brush starts pulling some of this darker ink as I move the brush from left to right. As I increase the wetness value, maybe to 100%, well, now when I click and drag holding down the shift key, you can see that Photoshop can really pick up more from the wetness of the paper, and it smears around the pixels more. All right, let's change the wetness value back down to, let's say 50%. And let's increase the mix to 50%. So now I'm telling Photoshop that yes, the canvas is a little bit wet, so it can smear the pixels, but I'm also going to mix in the colors that are underneath. So as I click and drag, we can see that there's a little bit more mixing going on. And in fact, if I move the mix all the way up to 100, well, now basically I'm saying, ignore my foreground color of white because I'm going to mix at 100%. So it's going to pull all of those dark values up. So again, with the shift key, as I click and drag, we don't see the white being loaded, even though it's my foreground color. All right, let's go ahead and decrease the mix back down to, say, 50%. There's two other icons here that are really going to help, and that's these two. The first one is the load icon. If I uncheck that, Photoshop won't load any paint into the brush. I'll go ahead and enable it again, and let's just select a new color like yellow so that we can see what's going on. So with it loading, it's going to load the yellow. So as I start painting in this area, we can see that Photoshop is adding yellow. If I tell it not to load, then I just get a blank area here, and well, I can still mix around the paint. I'm not adding any more yellow. In fact, I'll just change my foreground color to red here just to show you that we're not adding any red. I can't add any paint because I'm not loading the brush with anything. So this might seem like an odd thing, but it's a great way to turn a photograph into a painting without adding any color. And we'll look at that in just a moment. But for now, I'll tell it to go ahead and load. And now when I paint, I'm introducing that red. By default, the second icon is going to clean the brush every time I lay down a stroke. If I disable that, now when I paint, as I release the cursor over the black area, you can see that it's picked up a little bit of black. So as I start painting my next stroke, it would include that dark value. So it's just basically whether or not you want Photoshop to automatically clean the brush. So I'll leave that enabled, and then I'm going to disable the load value. So I'm just going to switch to this image of the coffee cup.
Okay, so that was LinkedIn Learning, and you can just go to the site and see what a subscription costs or how to get it for free. Thanks.